I don't think there's many people that actually enjoy the act of writing. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes I sit down and it just flows, but a lot of the time it is just a painful experience. And in this video, I want to share with you the tips and tricks that I use for staying motivated for writing, whether or not it's writing a research paper, whether or not it's writing your thesis, it doesn't really matter. And stay to the end because I've got some really strange ones that really work for me, but I can't really explain them. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Go check it out at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. I'll put a link in the description. When you sign up, you'll get 5 emails, everything from the tools I use, how to write the perfect abstract, links to my TEDx talk and podcast that I've been on, and more. So go sign up and you'll get all of that exclusive content into your inbox. Writing, whether or not it's papers or your thesis, is the #1 thing that will better your career or get you to the end of your PhD. Now, the thing is, people don't often talk about the motivation and how to actually write continuously. In my ebook, The Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, go check it out because there's a whole chapter dedicated on this topic. And this video will touch on some of the things I talk about and some extra ones, in fact. So the thing is that don't expect to be motivated. That's the #1 thing about writing, is sometimes you have a flash of inspiration and you should seize that with all of your might. But most of the time, you are going to feel like you don't want to sit down and write, especially in today's world where you're distracted constantly by Facebook, by infinite scroll, by Reddit. That's my thing. So you really have to come up with habits and techniques and tricks really to trick yourself into doing stuff. So the first thing that I do is I make my results visible. Now, I don't mind how you make your results visible. Now, as a scientist, as a PhD scientist, I love graphs. So I will graph everything if I want to track its progress. Now, the thing is, the things that you are tracking are the things that you will improve in. So, for example, if you're writing your thesis, I would do word count. Having a massive word count or a word count that you want to get to and split it up into little units. And each of those units could be a paperclip, for example. And you move a paperclip from not yet done to done. And if you see that progress, it is very motivating. It is all about keeping up that the momentum. Another way is graphs. I love graphs. So just get yourself a simple Excel spreadsheet, that's how you say it, and just graph your progress. Add the amount of words you've put in. If you're writing a paper, make it obvious that you are making progress. For example, I set up a little Kanban board in Asana or in Trello, whatever it's called, and you just move little cards from one to the other. So you say, yes, my introduction is in the draft phase. Now it's in the first draft phase, so that's with the supervisor. Now it's in the second draft phase. Now it's in the final. Now, whatever it is, and you move each chapter just through that board, and that progress tracking really helps. So that's the tip #1. Make your progress visible and obvious. Now, I very rarely feel like writing, and I have written hundreds of blog articles. I think I've written nearly 400 or 500 blog articles. I used to write for Science Alert. I used to write for Australia Science Channel. I was the columnist for Australian Quarterly in their science communication section. Now, the thing is that when it's a job, you kind of force yourself. You sit down, okay, I'm getting paid for this. And you need to have that same kind of mindset when you're writing your thesis or your PhD. Now, no one is there going, oh, the deadline. Seems like this weird construct in the distance, this abstract kind of thing where you're like, oh, get there eventually. No, sit down and write. Every single day, maybe not on the weekends, give yourself the weekend off, but every single day you need to contribute to your thesis or your papers. Now that's really easy for me to say. The hardest thing is just sitting down and doing it. So no matter what, I sit down twice a day and I write. I write in the morning, I write in the afternoon, and I write for about an hour. There's a number of different sort of timers and tools you can use, but I like to sit down for anywhere between 1 hour and an hour and a half, and I just focus on that. I put everything else aside, and it is about having a certain amount of self-discipline, I guess. And I'm not a big fan of like, hustle culture or you've got to do it now or like hustle or lose kind of stuff. But there's a moment where there is no getting around the fact you have to sit down and write. So there we are. Be a little bit more strict with yourself. Each day, budget in writing. Here's my first weird one. Now, I have found that associating a taste and a routine puts me in the mindset for writing. Now, I have different types of tea. I gave up caffeine maybe a year ago. I have very small amounts every so often in a nice English cup of tea because I'm English and I cannot get it out of my system. But most of the time, I have peppermint tea, I have lemongrass and ginger, I have weird concoctions that I find in tea stores, and it's weird. Whenever I go through this kind of like ritual of setting up the tea stuff, getting my tea, putting it in the tea holder thing, sipper, yes. And then I put it in a cup and I fill it up with water. And then I kind of like just naturally move on to the next step, which is move to my computer, sit down and I always have this here. That's the little tea thing. And I just get into that routine, and I've associated the taste of peppermint tea and lemongrass and ginger tea in particular with writing. And it's weird, it's like a little trigger for my brain. So if there's something you can do like that that's healthy, don't use like chocolate cake. In the past, I used to use chocolate and I found my sugar went up and crashed and I couldn't do like a full hour because my mind would just get so muddy. But if you can associate like herbal teas, I really recommend trying herbal teas. When I have a peppermint tea, I sit down, and it's weird that your brain makes that connection. Now I need to have a herbal tea, and I sit down, I'm like, boom, I'm ready to write. And it's a strange thing. Same with running. Like with running, it's not teas, but it's getting my stuff ready. Once I put on my running shorts and my running top, I'm just like in running mode. So always have the same routine leading up to writing, whether or not it's you take a walk around the department, you go to the lunchroom, you get your peppermint tea out, boom, drink it, walk back to your office while drinking, and just start getting that sort of like that routine down. And once you make that connection, it's as easy as ever. It really works. That's my first one. It's in the ebook as well. Okay, this is one that I'm a little bit scared to talk about, but it's something that I've been trialing after reading it in a book. Now, the guy that writes Dilbert, I think his name is Scott Adams. I read his book recently. I think the book was How to Fail at Everything But Still Succeed. And he talks about affirmations. And the scientist in me was like, boring. Like, no, thank you. But then there's the growth side of me that's like, well, what is this? And he talks about affirmations. And it's very simple. About 15 times a day in a row, you say an affirmation, something that you want in the future. And so I've been saying different affirmations to myself over the past about a year, and it is working. And I don't know why. Now, obviously, I don't believe that the affirmation is some sort of magical witchcraft thing that's causing the universe to fall into my lap. But the thing I think it does is focus your attention on the thing you want the most. So if you're writing your thesis, the typical affirmation structure is I, say your name, so I, Andrew Stapleton, want to finish my thesis. And then you say like, by the end of the year, I, Andrew Stapleton, will write 2 papers in the next whatever. And just having that constant reminder to yourself out loud 15 times a day really focuses your energy. I think that's what it is. It's like my mind is focused on that thing quite often. And if you just do it regularly every day, and you just say it out loud in the mirror. I say it when I take my dog for a walk. I look like a crazy person maybe if someone can hear me, but I try to do it when there's no one around. Ooh. But there we go, like affirmation seems to be working. I don't think it's magic. Well, I know it's not magic. At least science hasn't proved it yet. It's not magic, but what it does do is just help you stay focused on your primary goal. So the reason I started doing it is because I remember watching a YouTube video where Scott Adams was talking about it. He was like, first of all, it costs nothing to do, and it can be incredibly effective. And I must admit, I'm starting to see the results. I don't like saying it because it feels like voodoo or magic, but affirmations, give them a go. Once again, they don't cost anything and they may work wonders. The last thing I want to say about motivation and writing is that your best changes every single day. This is something that I had to get used to. One day I am in the zone, boom, I can crank out, 2,000 words and I'm like, oh, I am the man, like look at me go. And then other days I get to about 400 words and I'm like, oh, this is an absolute nightmare, I hate it. And the thing is, you are not a machine, and you have to recognize that when you are writing any sort of like project, whether or not it's something for undergraduate, whether or not it's your PhD thesis, whether or not it's papers for peer review, or just something else. But each day, your best is going to be different. So you are not a machine. You cannot expect to just be at this constant like motivation, like go get them kind of level. You have to just accept that some days your best is just your best, and it's different. Up here, down here, in the middle, right down below. Like sometimes I sit down, I write, and I do not let perfection get in the way of progress, and I go, this is my best today. Tomorrow, when I've had, a bit of sleep, the day's a little bit different, I haven't got all these things on my mind, my best is better. Sometimes when I go for a run, have fruit in the breakfast, have a great night's sleep, and just feel motivated, I am on fire, and that is my best. But most of the time, I just sit somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes I just go, you know what? I'm going to get these 500 words out of the way, and I'm going to go outside in the sun and enjoy myself. So your best will change. Do not expect motivation hacks and tricks to keep you up here. You're still going to fluctuate, and recognizing that I think is actually quite motivating in itself. So there we have it. That's everything you need to know about keeping yourself motivated while writing, whether it's your PhD thesis, peer-reviewed papers, or any sort of report for academia. Let me know in the comments what you would add to it. And if this video has been helpful, go check out academiainsider.com. That's my new project where you'll find my ebook, The Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, as well as the links to my Insider forum. And in the future, I'll be expanding it out to blogs, tools, recommended products, and everything like that. So go check it out. Also, sign up to the newsletter, and I shall see you in the next video.